Buddy, it's Dr. Dickenson. Today I'm going to be talking to you about one of my favorite things to do in math, which is to create digital projects. Digital projects allow us as teachers to bring the real world into math classrooms. Typically, a digital project includes technology, but it's similar to project-based learning where we have a driving question that is grounding what we do in the classroom. The beauty of these types of projects is that we can build in cool tools that make learning math and doing these projects fun and engaging. Take, for example, exploring, having your students plan a trip. They can use digital tools like Expedia or even looking at prices of airline costs. And Google even has these awesome features where you can see peaks of travel time in relation to the cost. So talk about building data science into your classroom. Another wonderful thing about digital projects is that it allows us to integrate content standards in a very creative, curious, and collaborative way. So when working with our kiddos, we can think about how we can build in reading, writing, speaking, and listening into these fun digital projects. So I'm going to take you to explore a couple of digital projects that I've created. So just hang on. Don't forget to subscribe and stay part of our channel because we have our live show every Thursday, Hacking Teacher Prep. And I'm bringing guests in that you probably have heard of to come and talk to you about their best practices and what they're doing in the classroom to have an impact on teaching and learning. So stay tuned and thanks for connecting with us. It's Dr. D. So let's get started talking about digital projects. I like to use Google Slides to create and share digital projects with my students. I typically pick a theme that's related to my students' funds of knowledge, so what they're bringing into the classroom, their interests, what they do on the weekends. This particular project here is based on the fact that in the Santa Cruz County, our kiddos go camping all the time. So I thought I would build on that phenomenon of camping because they love it, and have our students work on planning a camping trip. One thing to consider when you're starting to build those digital projects, again, what are your students' interests? And then what are the standards that you want your students to be able to achieve while they're working on this digital project? So always good to kind of frame the math that you're bringing in. And certainly with our digital projects, we can also connect to other content standards. We can do English language arts. We can do PE. It could be like a fun Olympiad game fantasy, or it could be social studies. So in California, fourth grade social studies is focused on geographic features in places in California. So I'm building on that, integrating it into these digital projects. Certainly when you are creating these digital projects, it's nice to have an exemplar for your students to look at. Here's one that I created for my students, and they get to create a copy of this slide and complete their own table with gallons and miles. The fun thing about this particular activity that my students really liked, well, a few things, is they got to pick their own car. So we get choice and voice in this project. And then they get to take a snapshot from Google Maps of the campsite that they've selected and the distance from our school to the campsite. Then here's where the math happens, right? The mathematizing happens because they're already vested in this car and this place, and they want to see what's going to happen and how much gas do they need. Certainly, I will get kiddos that are saying, well, I'm driving a Tesla, and I'll say, okay, well, figure out that electrical charge there. So again, have an exemplar, work it out. You get to see students thinking as they get to make their own copy of the slide. Some of students that are going to really go and be able to work on this table with efficiency because they have identified, what the ratio is. And other kids, they need a little bit more scaffolding and support. And that's our job, right? We get to zoom around and see where we can support. I like to build digital projects that actually build on several concepts. So even though the focus here is on multiplying numbers, two-digit numbers, I'm also building on their prior knowledge of geometry, which we had covered at the beginning of the year. Now we're in the middle of the year. And the students are kind of like revisiting the idea of nets and surface area and perimeter and area and things like that. So they get to build their tent. Yeah, and they get to draw it using virtual graph paper. So you can certainly hyperlink to digital tools that you want your kids to use. Another thing that I've done that I think is really important to have in your digital projects is just provide your students with an opportunity to like not do any math, like to think about who's going to be on the trip, like what am I going to bring, like what are we going to sing, what are we going to do. So having some creative space for them to share their interests, what they do, is really important. It just buys into that whole experience of having a digital project. Certainly kids will pick their own backgrounds and images, which is also fun. So you're building on technology skills. And as you can see here, I will typically include in the notes just some directions for my students. Another fun project, this one is Thanksgiving ratios. I included directions again in the bottom at the in the slide notes. Set the table with place settings for one table. What is the ratio of spoons to forks to glasses? What is the ratio of plates to table settings? So in this particular project, I just took images, little screenshots, and then I add them to my slide, and it becomes like a virtual manipulative. So it's a fun thing to do. Again, you can add tables really easily. Just insert table in your Google Slides, and you can do things like that, which again, provide a little bit of a scaffold. You can provide an example if your students need it, and then have them do the math. So certainly these are fun projects. You can also have your young students do this. Here's a second grade project. This is built on the idea of the fun Roblox game, Adopt a Pet, identifying those content standards, and then giving your students some tools to use. So I just, again, made these base 10 blocks. And so students are creating this 3-digit number, and then they're writing it in expanded form. Finally, another fun thing that you can do with digital projects is you can hyperlink to other games and activities that you want your students to practice skills. So this particular project is about adding money, and so students are going to go onto Math Playground. You could have them also go onto other digital tools like Math Learning Center. So definitely check out my other videos. I have several in there on how to create virtual manipulatives, how to create projects that include video, and just have fun and get to know your kids. And you'll see with digital projects, the students are doing the math, they're doing the talking, and you're just doing the walking. Don't forget, the most important part of your digital project happens at the end, where kids are sharing what they created. And then that math talk really happens, and you got so many different projects that kids are showcasing, having your audience ask questions, check the accuracy, and just have fun. Don't forget to like and subscribe, and leave a comment. Let me know what other videos you'd love to see.